Thank you so much. And very fast. And then we have 3 minutes. If somebody wants to do a very, very fast question, or if not, we stop and then you can talk later, as you like. Because as we have now to do the homage, tell. 5:00. O sea, tenemos 10 minutos. Okay, mucho mejor. Okay, we have 10 minutes then. We want, who wants to start? Okay, Pablo.
I arrived a bit late, but I find absolutely pertinent your approach and your proposal of integrating men in the study of women's movements for a more holistic comprehension of the phenomenon. And I just wonder myself, how did you maybe get into this idea? What drove you in? What is the context? Maybe, as I say, I arrived a little bit late, and but maybe I was curious about this when I was hearing you.
Okay, thank you for that question. You did miss it, unfortunately, at the beginning. I used a book that came out recently that shows that of over 400 ethnographies published in the last 60 years in English, there are none of men and masculinity in the Middle East, and that even though there are 100 ethnographies about women in the Middle East and North Africa, that almost none of them really mention men or men's roles in women's lives. So it's not unfortunately not my original idea to do this, but following the advice of what I hope will be a new focus in anthropology of not considering women without considering men as well, even in a women's rights movement. Thank you.
Yes, please. Yeah, thank you. Yeah.
I have to say, I think I'm a little surprised at the idea that there aren't all these ethnographies of men. I mean, I suppose if you did a Google search and you used a specific term, masculinity, you might have a hard time getting more than 5 hits. But if you think of ethnographies of men and the lives of men, I don't know, Lords of the Lebanese Marches, for instance, all the work of somebody like Rabinoff, who only talks about men, except a prostitute once. Yes. I could go on. And at the same time, it seems to me there's an awful lot of the ethnographies of women. For instance, Catherine Hoffman's work, who was meant to be here but wasn't, which is talking about essentially the role of women in the construction of, construction of identity, is a book which is in fact about relationships between men and women. So whilst it seems okay to take that as a polemical starting point, it seems to be slightly over the top as a claim, no?
Okay, perhaps. I appreciate those examples. And I think, from what Inhorn writes in this introduction that I used, it's not that, I think we can all admit that there have been a lot of anthropologists writing about men and men's lives, but masculinity, I think, is the difference here. And masculinity as a creation and a construction, sort of analogous to the way we talk about women as a stand-in for gender. So I think that's the difference. But actually, that's a really good example. Catherine Hoffman's book, We Share Walls, which is very much about gender and about this sort of dynamic construction of women in a relationship with language as opposed to men and how they use language. And so I think that's a notable exception to this, and I appreciate you bringing it up.
More questions? Well, I would use the time, only a first question also for you. In fact, what you have done also is a revision, is to revisit all that has been brought about the feminism, the association of feminists in Morocco, because this paper of men, this role of men in these actions, in these associations, is from the first time when these groups, these associations appeared in the 40s, in the 50s, in the 60s. I mean that I know that there is a critic that people do about men and masculinity in Islam, because no, that they say, okay, then this is a subject that must be studied only to make visible women. We do not want that men arrive here and change all the work that has been done before. But anyway, I think it's so necessary, this work that you have done, to show that this common work that women, but also with men, invisible men, has done, has participated in this association. No? And I want to know your opinion about this.
About
this role of men in these associations, from not now,
right,
from the 60s, the 50s, when appeared the first ones,
So you're talking about, as I mentioned earlier, in the kind of earlier post-colonial period when men were involved in establishing these associations and things like that. Okay, that's an excellent question. I think that, again, there's been it's not to say that men were not actively involved with the associations or with this movement or with women's issues more generally, but to say that we've kind of written them out or de-emphasized their role or problematized it as one of them pushing or forcing or using women for a kind of nation-building agenda that women didn't necessarily ascribe to. And so I feel like a lot of this work is, since then, has been a corrective to those points of view to show that women have agency apart from men. Women don't need men to be involved in order to assert their rights or their role in political parties or their ability to form movements around women's issues. And so, yeah, I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, that's true.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, we have still 4 or 5 minutes.
Could I ask a question? If no
Yes,
one
sure,
else?
you can.
I would like to ask a question for Sabina about the wardrobes and the memory boxes. Just, you told us a bit about your methodology, but I was wondering how much trust did you have to build before they would start taking you into these interior spaces?
It was necessary a good mediation to enter in the houses and to build relationship with these people, because I haven't the time to explain that, but these families that asked me are near to my ex-boyfriend. So it is the reflexive anthropology suggests to explain also the backstage of the research. So it's very important to explain also this aspect. So it's very interesting because I stayed there, and the experience that I lived across spaces suggests really how I construct the trust with these participant members. Because every time that I win a little more trust, I cross another little spaces in the home until to discover the most intimate one. But really important for me, they were the interviews, because during the in-depth interviews, yes, we have constructed with fathers, mothers, and other members an intimate relationship, and in the space of this relationship, words come out, and the trust is built. because they told me a part of their history and I told them a part of my history. And in this intersubjective construction, it was possible to arrive to their intimate memory boxes. It was a long and progressive journey, but the mediation, it was very, very important for acceding to their home and to live with them. Without this mediation, it is very difficult to make an intimate ethnography like that.
Okay, thank you so much. We have to finish. Thank you, Sabina, Jamila, Amy, and we continue. I'm so sorry, the time is over. Okay, very, very fast, because it's 28. Okay, say.
I don't understand
How
because
you feel?
I want to ask Sabina, how did she feel when she first saw the Moroccan houses that did not reveal the biographies of the families? And were you impressed?
I was very frustrated because I come from another similar research carried out with Italian families and American families, okay? And the experience I had within this context, even if in the American families there was another another group research, blah blah blah. But my experience in the Italian family was completely different, because every spaces and every surface of the home told about their history in some way. And even if at the beginning the object and the spaces were silent, but asking to the participant to tell me the story, there was all times some personal souvenir to share with me. And when, with this idea, I entered the Moroccan houses, and I felt this silent. I was embarrassed at first, because it was like I have the feeling that perhaps I have not the right research questions, but by participating to their life, I discovered that I'm wrong. Perhaps they were the right research question, but the time for discovering this biography was a little more long, and the ways for discovering them are quite different. So it's like a gift, the stories they told me, and when the door of the wardrobes opened, I feel, I don't know, I can't explain it, but the construction of the trust. I felt that I was not a member of the family, but an intimate person for them. And for me, it was a gift, that's sure.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, the organization told me that we have to stay here, because now will arrive some person that has been contracted, and then we have to continue. Thank you so much. So interesting. This moment. Thank you so much. Un placer, de verdad, yo hablaré contigo. I will explain. Okay. Explícalo tú, sí.
So, given that we are Basque but Mediterranean, as Matthew Carey says, we haven't stick to time. So we have decided to change the program a little bit. So we are not going to make the coffee break now. And now, as it was scheduled, we are going to have the homage to Pierre, because we called a Basque group that still has got to arrive, and so we are going to pay homage to one of the members of our scientific committee, but also one of the personalities of the anthropology of the Saharian and Saharian societies. So now we are going to make a little pause. You can relax yourselves until the dancers, the Basque dancers, come. Okay. Sí, 5 minutes. So.
5
Sí, 5 minutes until the rest of the participants who are in the other room come, and also we can fix the thing.
Vale, vale. Ahora sí ya lo he entendido.
And the coffee break is going to be at 6. Okay, there is coffee break. Yeah, from 6 to 6:30.